March 4th, 2025 meeting of the Newcastle Planning and Zoning Commission to order. This is a continuance of the 2/24/25 meeting. First item of business will be roll call.
Gordon Harness.
Here.
Carl Evans.
Here.
Jerry Bennett.
Here.
Will Wright.
Here.
Keith Butler.
Here.
We do have a full commission present, and we'll proceed with business. Item number 2 is to consider approval of the agenda as presented. Been any requests for changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion to approve. Should I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, signify with an raised hand. Be unanimously approved. Item number 3 is to consider approval of the minutes from our January 7th, 2025 meeting. And as I reviewed them, I found no changes.
I will put it there.
You want to make a motion for it?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second. All in favor of approving the minutes of the January 27th, 2025 meeting, raise your right hand. Don't care which one. Item number 4 is a report of the City Council's decisions on Planning Commission recommendations from our last meeting.
Sure. The first item for the City of Newcastle rezoning to HUD was continued. The preliminary plat for the City of Newcastle was continued. Item 6C was a rezoning for a PUD for a renaming of the Brush Creek PUD to Lakeview. That was approved. The next item, 6E, was a preliminary plat renaming from former Brush Creek to Lakeview. Then 6F was the final plat of former Brush Creek to Lakeview. 6G was a rezoning from suburban estate residential to agriculture, and a land use amendment for 1951 Northwest 8th Street was approved. And then 6I was a rezoning from Ag to E1 for 2129 State Highway 76. That was approved. And finally, 6K was the ordinance amendment that outlined the general contractor license and updated the appendix table and clarified language for general contractors that property owners that were working on their own property did not have to obtain the general contractor's license or provide insurance, liability insurance or workman's comp, and it reduced the fees as well.
I guess I might note, the council discussed quite a bit the fact that they were reducing the fee. Item number 5 is continuance requests, and there are none. Item number 6 is citizens' comments. This is opportunity for citizens to be heard on any matter that's not on our agenda and on which to be heard. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Item number 7 is lot split deed approvals. Southwest 16th Street.
Regina is Ronnie's daughter, and I believe she needed to put an accessory building, and I think we needed to give her some more land for zoning conformance.
Oh.
So that was what the lot split was. I believe it's what that was.
I drove over there, I couldn't figure it out.
Hidden reason there. Gives us an idea of what's happening over there, though. There's always quite a bit of good for it. Item number 8 is a public hearing to consider an application for rezoning from CC2 Community Commercial District to PUD Plan Unit Development for Town Center Plaza for Newcastle Public Works Authority, located in the northwest quarter of Section 23, Township 9 North, Range 4 West of the Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. The property address is 250 South Main Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is R 2024-012, which has been continued to this docket.
This rezoning, item 8, is UPR 2024-12. It's a rezoning from CC2, Community Commercial District, to PUD, Planned Unit Development, for Town Center Plaza for the City of Newcastle, is the owner and developer. It's located at 250 South Main Street, so it's the southeast corner of US Highway 62, Main Street and East Cross Plain, for approximately 9.6 acres. As you can see on the screen, on the left side is an aerial showing surrounding land uses. We have law offices and Pioneer Telephone to the north of this site, north of Fox, and single-family dwellings, as well as a church. To the east is the Fox Hollow residential subdivision development. To the south, we have an office for Norman Regional Primary Care. To the west, there's several different uses. The Newcastle Animal Hospital, Tri-City Hope Center, a record service, an auto service, the Newcastle Pacer, and a church. The middle screen depicts the surrounding zoning. As you can see, to the north is CC2. To the east is a PUD for single-family residential. South as well as CC2, and the west is also CC2 and RF1 as well. The Newcastle 2040 Comprehensive Plan and Future Land Use Map is on your far right. On the far right on the screen, as you can see, this land is designated general commercial. To the north, we have general commercial and mixed-use residential commercial. To the east, mixed-use residential and commercial and urban residential. To the south is general commercial, and to the west is general commercial. As you know, our land use, future land use plan and map designated mostly commercial or mixed-use commercial on our frontages of all of our arterials. So just a little bit of background with this project. You know, the City of Newcastle purchased this property for economic development to create sales tax dollar base. The City of Newcastle City Council approved this purchase in November of 23, and soon after then we went to work with FSB, the chosen engineering design firm for this project, to create a PUD and to create the preliminary plat for this development. With that being said, we came up with a master site development plan that looks something like this on your screen. We have 6 lots. There will be shared access throughout the development, so cross access throughout the development, as well as shared parking. We'll have 2 entrances into this development off of Main Street and 1 off of Southeast 3rd. So circulation will be, traffic circulation will be allowed throughout the entire development. A few main things that why we chose the PUD route. In CC2, there's a lot of different uses that are permitted by right. Bowling alley, a gas station, a automobile service station. Some uses that we didn't really want for this site. So we made the site mostly retail, sit down, and fast food restaurant sites, potentially. So we can, number one, have some amenity at this site, at the south end of town, where most of our stuff, as you know, is towards the north, our commercial, retail, restaurants, and such. So that was the whole idea behind the PUD. The other thing that the PUD did was reduce the building setback to 15 feet to give the lot areas, to gain a little bit more lot area for each one of these. They will not be crossing any easements, and will have plenty of buildable area. That's the main thing with the PUD. As you can see, there will be no development in the north side of this site as it's designated floodplain. And you can also see that, my apologies, my computer is very sensitive. The north end, north of the parking lot, that area that's kind of in that hatched dotted line will be the detention, the regional detention for this site. Those are the main things with the PUD. Every lot will have access to public water and sanitary sewer. As I said, the common area detention will be shared amongst each one of those lots. And it does require a plat, which is the next item after the rezoning for the PUD. The main thing that this does and what they're trying to achieve, as well as the uses, is to create some architectural guidelines. So you will see in the PUD that there is quite a bit of design guidelines for the aesthetic, the building aesthetic, as well as the landscaping and design of the circulation. It will all be curb and gutter, so it'll be contained storm sewer, and those are the main points of the PUD. I'm happy to answer any questions. Our engineer, Sean McGraw, is also here with FSC to do a presentation regarding the PUD. And I'm happy to take any questions at this point, or we can move forward and let him go, and we can answer all the PUD questions at that time, whichever you prefer.
I guess I can wait to ask these or ask them now. Which do you want to do?
Maybe he might answer some of the questions that you have. So,
okay. If you would.
Thank you, Ms. Greenlee. Commissioners, my name is Sean McGraw. As she mentioned, I'm the FSB, civil engineering consultant for the applicant. So kind of go through some supplemental materials for the PUD first, because that's the item at hand. This is the Alta survey. I don't know if we really need to talk too much about this. I think really kind of utility and adjacent uses she already really covered, so we can probably move forward.
It's lagging. I apologize. It's really lagging.
Okay. So just a couple exhibits from some of the PUD highlights. She mentioned, obviously this changes from the bulk standards of the CC2 with some lot sizes, lot standards, building height staying at 45, which I believe is the CC2 height. So no changes there. The setbacks having 15 foot on all yards. And then the parking, you can kind of see this table we've set up in correspondence with the uses. So we're really matching up with the uses and kind of focusing on driving retail, grocery, and eating establishments, whether they're QSR, sit down, or drive-through. They all have their own specific parking calculation that we've gone through.
So I do have a question. So the parking calculation. So I'm looking at a kind of a different map. I don't know which one exactly to use. So the three western buildings, the ones that are going to be closest to 62, those three buildings, those are going to be three individual businesses. That's not like does that make sense? Like this is one, this is two, and this is three, right? On the back side, the two on the end, I'm assuming the one in the middle is the large retail grocery, whatever is kind of what y'all have. That you mentioned that in your presentation. You mentioned grocery. The two on the end, are those just two businesses, or are those businesses going to be built out to where there's four different businesses in each one of those buildings?
So I would answer that with, we've tried to design this PUD and preliminary plat to be really flexible. We don't know, what developers are going to approach the city to purchase these lots. And so while we've kind of had a basis of design for that larger kind of anchor tenant to be a grocer, the two kind of outbuildings beside it, we have a lot of flexibility to play with, whether that's a retail that's kind of a threeplex type retail, or if it's a single use owner, or if it's another sit down type restaurant. That's kind of the size programming we've done there.
Does it change the minimum parking available if there's 2 retailers in there as opposed to 3? Or does the size of the building determine the number of spots required?
It's based on square footage of the retail space. Now, it would change based on, is it a sit-down restaurant versus just general retail? I mean, those obviously have much different uses, much different kind of user bases and parking needs.
Just on that point, though, you provided for cross-access, and as I read it, it sounded like collective parking.
Yes.
If it's a restaurant that needed more spaces than fit there, would they count part of the, let's say it is a grocery store in the middle?
Yes.
Part of those spaces?
Yes. Yeah, so kind of what we've done is we're trying to maximize the 7 buildable acres we have here.
Right.
And drive those sales tax dollars that she mentioned.
Right.
We're trying to maximize that. And if we had to say truly, okay, if one QSR came first and we have a set number of parking and no one else can borrow from that, then your chances of attracting the grocer are going to be difficult. And so we're trying to have a little bit of flexibility and look at what is the ultimate build out, and what really, if it was Saturday night, 5 o'clock, what does this site need for parking? Can it park and accommodate all these different facilities at the same time?
And I'm asking these questions because I think it's something we overlooked on a particular restaurant in town. There's no parking, and then it takes other parking, and then they have no parking signs, and they can only people that are going to a specific restaurant can park there, things like that. I want to avoid that in something like this because it's going to be a hot commodity for a while, especially if it's a new restaurant and things like that. So I don't want to get into a situation where if it is a grocery store, people can't park in the grocery store to go to the restaurant with fear of being towed.
Sure. And I think a lot of that too is going to be when we're trying to really maximize that side, we also try to think of like day timing. The grocery has a different peak hour for the sit-down restaurant than the tea shop or the coffee shop. So we've kind of tried to take that into account and try to figure out what's our true parking requirement for the site.
So you don't think that the parking lot's going to fill up? You've got plenty of room.
Well, we hope it fills up. We're trying to drive
we
sales
don't want
tax.
it to be completely full, do we?
Well, we don't want to
We'll be parking out in the street.
Sure.
Or people just drive by and don't stop, and then they lose out on customers.
It's a real question when you start sharing space, right?
It won't matter if it's Chick-fil-A. They'll be on the highway.
Well,
I'm just saying.
So you've got one space for every 175 feet for a grocery. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So however many square foot that we put underneath that roof will have enough spaces in their dedicated area to cover that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what our master plan has. Okay.
You won't be counting in any other areas on the property, correct?
No, so where the grocer being the anchor tenant, those entities have kind of set requirements. And so you will not be able to attract them if you're trying to entice them being underparked. And
well,
so
I appreciate the enticement, but I'm really worried about parking, right?
Sure.
So what you're telling me is if we build this grocery and it's X number of square feet, we're going to have enough spaces at a base of 175 square feet per parking lot.
Yes.
Parking spot.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. And so where the shared comes in is people who are doing business at different times in the grocer would overlap into that grocer.
No,
So
I
if you-
understand.
Yes.
But
The grocer
it's a guess.
Yes. The grocer is adequately parked.
And the
On
ones that are sharing are the ones around the perimeter?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you said maybe this doesn't matter, but I'm just curious. You say you're going to sell these lots, right? You said you're going to sell a lot?
That's the plan.
But it says here the landlord is the city of Newcastle. So does the city maintain the parking lot, the infrastructure side
It'll
of
be
it?
turned over to
So it's the landlord during development
Correct.
until they're sold off.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I'm
property.
just, this is just new
Yeah,
concept.
the
I'm just
property owners
trying to understand how the
association.
city does it and hands it off. Okay.
Yeah,
You're just a landowner until somebody buys it and then moves forward.
then all the common areas, the detention, all of that will have to be maintained by the
HOA.
property owners association. And then each individual lot will also have to maintain their own
Right.
upkeep, their landscaping, upkeep, their parking stalls. They'll be responsible for that on their lot.
Okay, next up, Ms. Greenlee mentioned that we have an architectural design guideline as a component of this PUD. Here's some kind of exhibits from that guideline. And what this is really trying to do is trying to drive an intent. When a developer approaches and has an architectural team that's going to do some of these commercial developments, they're going to want to know, what kind of site constraints they have, or what type of aesthetics, what type of materials, that thing. So we've kind of clearly defined that. And really the driver behind it is to allow the city to sell 6 lots that all have somewhat of a look and a town center type feel as well. And
It all
it's
looks the same.
It all has a look and the same. At the same time, there's issues with that in terms of if it's a national brand that has an aesthetic in terms of the architectural piece. A lot of this really addresses a lot more of the site, which those brands are going to be very flexible.
Well, if our city ordinances are written well, good enough, their national brand doesn't matter, because I've seen plenty of Lowe's and HEBs and grocery stores that don't look like everyone else because they had to match what the city required. So,
And that is the intent of this.
question. Are there developers that come in and that would buy this and develop the entire thing at once, make all the buildings look the same, and then sell out the spaces? Or are we looking at, we're going to sell this corner and it's going to get developed, and the rest of this is going to sit vacant or undeveloped or dirt field? The north side going to be a dirt field while the south side gets developed? Or like kind of, what does that process look like? Or in other areas in the past with development?
So I would say that the idea is that we have 6 lots. If we have somebody that wanted to come in and buy all 6 lots, we'd be like, yeah. And we would be happy to, as long as they met the design guidelines,
Right.
the uses in those, and if they wanted to build out further PUD.
Well,
They
how's
could
the
do
shared
that.
parking work then? So if a restaurant or fast food wants to come in and build, but the grocery store doesn't, all that additional parking that they're counting on for that restaurant that's part of the grocery development, if it's not getting developed because the grocery hasn't developed yet, then we've got a restaurant with no parking. So
No.
how's that work?
Well, like
It's not locked in at this point in time. The city has administrative oversight over this entire architectural design and PUD guidelines. And so if the grocer, let's just say for example, the grocer won't come, but we have other sit-down restaurants, the city will be able to work with them and say, okay, you need to get this parking. There won't be the cart before the horse type scenario. If, as a part of your development, you need to get to this amount of parking spaces to satisfy yourself.
And their requirement's going to be based on that spreadsheet we saw earlier,
Yes.
those lines.
Yes, that's the new zoning parking requirement, yes.
I do want to say too, I mean, yes, we have an anchor there. Would we like a grocery store there? Yes. But if the Ranch Steakhouse wanted to come and they said, we want that spot, plus we want the other lot next to it, and we're going to make a little entertainment, district, we would say, sure, we're going to sell you that lot and the lot next to it, and you can combine both of those lots through the warranty deed
Yeah.
survey.
Yeah.
And they could develop both those lots. So there is a lot, like Sean said, there is a lot of flexibility built into the PUD that allows the city to have discretion to that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if somebody comes forward and wants to buy a lot and it's not somebody the city wants to sell to, that's
We can't tell them no, really.
That's
I mean,
correct.
we can, and I understand that, and I'm only using these terms because that's kind of what was mentioned when you presented or whatever. My real question was just what happens if one side wants to develop before another side gets developed, and we don't, what happens if we don't have enough parking, or they're going to be required to build out the parking to a certain extent, all that kind of stuff. Since there's a lot of shared stuff once it gets developed, if it doesn't get developed all at once, who's sharing what, who's sharing the responsibility, or like.
I understand. Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Those are good questions. I think that the main thing that, and I'll just reiterate again, each one of those lots in that parking table, each one of those lots should be able to accommodate the parking for that use. We wrote in shared parking and cross access, so you don't have, people aren't going in and out of lots, and it makes a continuity to the development. It's supposed to be a place that people want to go and visit. I want to go to the grocery, then I want to go have dinner at Longhorn. I want to,
I keep saying that, I'm gonna write it on my paper. That's how rumors get started.
Okay, I'm not saying anymore. I'm giving examples of potential sit-down restaurants. Examples only.
No, okay.
Please hear that, everyone. We do not have any users yet, and I wouldn't disclose it if we did. So, okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Thank you. Are you ready for the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
It's very lagging for some reason this evening. It's
I think our next slide is
architectural design.
more to architectural design guidelines that are around. We have some dumpster enclosure kind of specifications, and then also the kind of large monument sign that's obviously trying to attract attention to the site. So it kind of goes in up front so that everyone understands from a developer standpoint kind of what's to be expected.
Are those far enough? Is that sign going to be far enough away and from the neighborhood that we're not going to get complaints about the brightness of the sign?
That's another thing that we really tried to pay attention to. But yes, this sign will be located on the frontage of Main Street, not on 3rd and out of the site triangle. We've thought about that. We have a depiction on one of the renderings, but we really don't have the exact place yet that the sign will go. The whole idea is to keep it kind of more of a human scale, where you're not having a large sign just like going to match
and out of the site, out of the people coming out of Fox.
Correct. It's because of Main Street as well, and same thing with lighting. But
LED panels be allowed?
with what?
LED signage panels be allowed?
LED, I think that is, I'd have to look specifically under signs, but I don't think that we have called out.
We do address it. It's been such a long time since we discussed it. I'd be lying if I told you if we
That's
allowed it
me
or not.
too. No neon signs are permitted at all.
Does that include LED?
No. Are you
Our
talking?
signage doesn't cover or restrict LEDs, or doesn't have any brightness.
I know, and that's what I'm really harping on every time this comes up. Is that Pioneer sign is terrible.
Yeah, and if
Sometimes
that was
it's dark, sometimes it's not.
and if that was near homes and stuff,
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and that, I think
There are controls
our
in place
rewrite that's coming up, we keep saying that, but I think that's where we're gonna
who's going to get that?
get some treatment in there.
Also, I think that the design guidelines and our sign codes that they have to be shown on the site plan as it states in the design guidelines. And methods of illumination, dimension, materials, and colors will be shown on an elevation section for the design guidelines. And so at that time, there's some administrative discretion over those signs. So
And I'm not
I do
against
not
LED
see a
panels
marquee.
at all.
Yeah, I don't see
I'm
marquee.
against uncontrolled brightness at night.
Right, right. And that's
So-
why you'll see the frontage of all these buildings is facing towards Main Street. So we'll be considerate of that. People come in and they say, well, I want a sign here or on the side. Those will be things that we have discretion over.
Okay.
Next one. So here's our typical example of kind of what we would expect the storefront to look. And this is kind of from an architectural standpoint. Most cities are moving toward a frontage space that has some characteristics to it. You know, whether it's difference in elevation, difference in setback from the parking. And so our architectural design guidelines have kind of walked through this. This is just the exhibit to kind of give some look and feel to what the architectural characteristics would be expected. And obviously the PUD has the master site development plan. And we've covered this. You know, from a design standpoint, other things I may point out, we've really tried to do some placemaking at the intersections of these shared drives and take into account some green spaces, some landscape architecture where we could. Like Ms. Greenlee said, we're trying to really drive this as a city center type of complex where people just go and then utilize multiple places and spend a day. So we've done that as well.
Since we're talking about entrances, I'm gonna ask Highway 62, 2 entrances onto there, that close to whatever street that is that goes to the Fox Hollow, third. No concerns, or are we getting there? Without good there?
So we were asked to put together this vehicle circulation plan. We've always kind of operated under the assumption that we need two access points to Main Street just for the volume of traffic that you could see at any given time. We have not worked through, you know, what that traffic modeling looks out in terms of left turn lanes coming out. Obviously, we're showing here and can obviously work our way back on the drive entrances on the design when we get to the final plat stage in terms of do we want to only have one left turn of these, because having the 2 left turns going toward the 3rd Street intersection at that proximity could be troublesome, certainly. So we like to make sure we have the space requirements available and kind of work our way back. We know that the DOT driveway is going to allow us to have those 2 driveways at that separation. So that's what we kind of wanted to make our plan on. But in terms of kind of finalizing the in and out model of what that traffic looks like, we haven't really put that down yet. We do anticipate taking one other access off of 3rd Street, which would be, have no doubt that it would just be a 2-lane in and out, and it's more just for a secondary access, fire safety, that type of thing as well.
Have y'all looked into entrance exit instead of this being an entrance and a left and a right? Y'all looked into just one of them being an entrance point and the other one being the exit point?
The hard part of that now at this stage is that you're going to really ostracize some lot and going to really drive down its value.
Okay.
You know, who you're going to try to attract for these frontage lots, you know, they're going to want to see a certain number of ADT, you know, and then they may dock a certain amount of pay if we have to assume we have to enter down here in front of another QSR to get to me.
Get to there.
You know, that's going to really curtail that.
Okay. Makes sense.
My own concern would be that people will make a right-hand turn out of this being so close to the right itself.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, you can sit there if you want on Monday morning at 7:45, but there are going to be people trying to turn right, and the highway is backed up almost to 3rd Street every day. You know.
There's some mornings where it's backed up almost to Southwest 16th.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think there's a danger factor there, people trying to make I say, not right-hand turn, left-hand turn, across all lanes and go south.
Yes.
From that point, would be my concern. Not as an entrance,
That is something that we
but an exit.
discussed with the city manager and
I know it's further south because you've got that
safety.
detention pond flood zone. At least there's not an entrance there on the
Hey,
corner.
well, at least now and when they get their license, they teach them to turn into the turn lane and sit and wait. That's now a merge lane, by the way, if you didn't know. That's what they're teaching.
Not a turn lane, it's a merge.
It's not a turn lane anymore.
So
it's
you
a
got
merge lane.
55 feet in those lanes on each of those, correct?
On the driveways?
Yeah.
35.
This is 55 feet private, right here. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's 55, 41.
Where are you looking at?
From Main Street, just go east about middle of there. So it's 55 private and 41. I know which one we're looking at.
So is that a utility easement, or is that the road, or what is that?
That would be the drive easement.
Okay.
So it's not exactly the
Hold up what
roadway
you're looking at.
and
Yeah, what are you looking at?
I'm just looking at numbers on the page, fellas. Numbers on the
Which page are
page.
you looking at?
Right here.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So of that 55 feet, how much do you expect to use? I realize it's a fluid thing, okay? I understand that.
This says 35.
Sure. I'll walk through it for you. How about we'll do that? So basically throughout all the shared drives, we have a 26-foot street, curb to face, which is city standard.
Right?
When we come out here, we have a widening to a 35-foot to be able to allow the 3 lanes.
Yeah, I don't have that drawing. Where is that drawing at?
It's in the,
Go ahead, keep talking.
that would be,
You mean that thing we couldn't get any bigger? Yeah, that's the one.
yeah.
Keep going.
So 35-foot is going to be the maximum that DOT is going to allow for that width right there, not including the radius right here, just the actual true width coming into
Okay.
the right of way. So 35.
So 35, is that 3 lanes? Or is that-
3 lanes, yes.
Okay.
So we show that at both here, and it would be 2 lanes that align with the 2 lane kind of through here, and then this third right turn only lane would be kind of more of a widening bay before the right turn.
Well, the whole idea of turning left here is going to be tough.
Sure.
They got two spots to do it though. Really 3 if they go out the side and then they're on third. You got 3 opportunities.
What would you say the city talked about
I
that?
was gonna say that we discussed potentially having only one of those access points on Main Street, probably the furthest south one, only having the potential to turn left, not the one closest to the light, because that's where traffic starts to really back up more.
So,
And so,
so this one will be a right turn only out of here?
Yeah.
Is that what we're getting at?
mhm.
Okay.
It would be right in and right out.
To the inbound.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. But then,
Like
but when
Sean
you leave,
said.
it can only be right.
We
But
just-
that's not what this drawing shows.
No, it is not. This leaves us the ability, if we want to change it, because we're not at that final plat stage, we're not at that final development stage where we're going to decide, and like Sean said, ODOT would allow it. However, we're deciding with, Chief Norman brought that up as well today, looking at that middle turn lane, the left out, potentially not doing that on that north access point and only allowing it on the south access point.
Well, and
What we
of course, the follow-up of that is going to be, you need to consider and decide what you want before you send it out to developers so that they don't have.
Well,
That is
and then,
That is correct.
Right.
That is correct. Yes, that's correct. We also know that we don't want to minimize potential users because most people are going to, most developers or users of those lots want traffic to be able to access from both ways. They don't want just, hey, I'm only on the side of the street where I can only, I'm missing out on everything going.
It's a safety issue.
Right.
I mean, if I pull in there, I'm not turning left out of that entrance at all.
Yeah.
It's me and my family at all.
Right, and you,
even if it's allowed.
right, and you,
A
and
lot
that's
of people don't care, and you turn a 16-year-old loose in there, they're not gonna know, I shouldn't do that. I just think it's a safety
still be
issue.
signage if there is a right in, right out only.
So those 2 lanes are 26 until you get down to the end and then they widen up. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Last thing to really note on this plan is we're kind of also taking into account solid waste. So we have shared dumpster enclosures for these 2 lots in this area and these 2 lots in this area. Obviously, the anchor tenant would have their own, and this parcel has its own as well. And so we're trying to put them in a way that we can have a trash truck movability kind of thought through, and that's not shown on this plan as well.
So where are you putting the 8-yarder in the front? I'm sorry, yeah.
Right.
Dumpster.
Okay.
In the front, yeah.
And it's possible, depending on who purchased that lot, some of the basis of the design for kind of what we're looking at there, they may just use polycarbonate, depending on what they do. The size and scale of their operation.
Understood.
Before we go on, while we've got that up and we're talking about parking in text, although it's small and I'm not reading, might not have been too good, but the 3rd Street entrance, that still has to be coordinated with the Fox Hollow Homeowners Association, is that correct?
The way it's designed now in the preliminary plat, we are, I think it's maybe inches, if that even.
Yes, we would require a small access easement across their common area.
Okay, that's what, just making sure of
Why
that.
would you move those? Is it because of the distance off of 62 that it has to be, or why wouldn't you just move it to where you didn't need their approval?
Just talking right here, I'll kind of work
Yeah.
this. So there's, on this 3rd Street, there's 2 common areas in these kind of landscape right here. Because of where we're trying to line this drive up to give a true straight through drive across the whole thing, and us kind of designing around this anchor tenant, it makes it to where we just need a little bit, because this plat actually comes up and touches, and the majority of this drive we're putting in there it creates no issue. It's just a small little portion. And we just can't drive this design of this roadway up any further to accommodate for that without really kind of messing up with flow of the property.
The other part, and the real part of my question, because I understood that was there because I remember when we did Fox Hollow, but is there any discussion of widening up their entrance road at that point to provide a turn-in lane so that we don't block 3rd Street with people coming in there and turning into this development? I mean, just so that 3rd Street gets wide enough there that you could put a turn lane in from the west to turn in left across the other lane of traffic.
Sure. We have not had any discussions like that to date, no.
Okay. File that away. Janae knows it, but I just, as you're working on this, that's something that I think
A dedicated left turn lane to go into the conditions of this.
off of 3rd Street.
Yeah, to get you out of the traffic flow so the cars
Right, so people going home
go
can
home,
still
don't get stopped.
Yeah.
And they're backed out into the main street.
Main
right?
Street, right. But yeah, I don't think there'll be any real problem getting homeowners association to play with
No, they're going to benefit.
that limit of no access, because that's an entrance for them, really.
And if there was any issue, that would definitely persuade them to say yes.
Well, yeah,
So what was the original setback on this job before we changed it to 15?
25. Ready to.
Yes, ma'am. And this is our last slide kind of for the rezoning PUD piece. This is kind of what we work toward. And so there's just a rendering of the master site development plan, so you can kind of get the look and the feel for what the architectural design guidelines in conjunction with a lot of the written narrative is gearing us towards. So this gives the public a lot better understanding of kind of what the city has been kind of working for on this property.
Well, I hope all those flowers live.
I'm more concerned that that fund is really there to see in the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the PUD reserves and uses the language for uses to be administratively revised. And I think I picked up here, my question was by whom. If we, and I guess this being
It'd be the property owner.
preliminary plat, so it'd be the city's gonna be revising the preliminary plat, kind of as they want.
Correct. And the uses as well.
Oh, you can change the uses other than the ones that are listed in the PUD?
It gives them discretion to the city to allow a,
But once you sell it to the developer, then
the buyer.
Well, she's talking about changing the PUD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If there was something that was outside of a listed use that's allowed, it would be up to the discretion of the city to determine if that fits. It says that if it's not listed in the PUD, will be administratively reviewed for approval. So the owner of the property, City of Newcastle, will be looking at that. Like I said, we didn't list like a heyday, entertainment type.
But what happens
thing.
when I come in and buy this, and then I sell it to you, and you want a different something in there? Like then we're like, that makes sense. So what you're saying is that right now the city has control, but eventually the city's not going to have control anymore.
You still would because of a building permit. So they call and say, hey, I want to, restaurant, quick service restaurant number 1 wants to sell to a auto body shop. Auto body shop calls us and we're going to say, no, that's not listed in the PUD, and we prefer that doesn't happen here. We're not going to allow that use. So we have,
But
anytime.
Discriminating against certain businesses.
That is correct. Not discriminating,
Let me ask
allowing
one final
uses.
question that I have. So, do we have any other PUDs in the city where we can administratively change it without coming back to planning?
Say that again, sir, I'm sorry.
I said this whole administrative changing whatever you want to do because you like it, which is great. Do we have any other PUDs in the city that are that way?
My question.
Not
So
designed like
are we
this.
setting a precedent by letting ourselves do whatever we want to do?
I think that we'll probably see a little bit more flexibility in PUDs to allow different uses, but we don't have one like this. Being that the city made an investment to potentially create this space, to create sales tax dollars, they wanted to leave it as open as possible for potential different users, but yet narrow it down for very specific users at the same time.
That's not what it says. It says I can change it whenever I want, as long as everybody that's over in that side, that's what they want to do.
Administratively reviewed
That would be
for
in
approval.
City Hall,
That
right?
would be City Hall.
And we don't have that anywhere else in the city.
Not that I know.
So
I've never heard of a PUD that, after the final plan, it's absolutely gonna be fine. But I've never seen PUDs modifiable without coming back through the process.
I just think it's a precedent, is my point.
And, you know, that's where part of my question comes from there is, if it's a PUD and it's approved, until its approval is reapproved, I didn't think it's approved.
I will say that the exact language said any proposed use that is similar to the permitted uses and not listed in the PUD.
Batman and Superman are both wearing capes.
Where does it
They are
say
not
that?
the same folks.
Oh, is it in this document? There we go. I did read it.
Right? I mean, the word similar can mean many things to many people.
Because what we're trying to do is to eliminate some intensive uses and be considerate of the residential development.
And we appreciate that, and we agree with the listed uses that you have there. It's the want to have flexibility without anybody else's input is my concern.
Well, it does say similar, so if it was completely out of the ballpark of any of these listed uses.
But who decides that? My similar is different than yours, that's different than his, that's different than his. Who gets to decide what similar means?
I think
The
that
administrative, so then it just all goes back to they get to decide.
Yeah. That's right.
it would have to be similar to a store, shop, or grocer. Eating, drinking, restaurant, either dine-in or drive-through.
It just seems inconsistent with my understanding of why we're approving a PUD. I think you've got to have some definiteness to what we're doing. I mean, it's like you say, we're going to be governed by CC2 except, and you list what the changes are. And here, we're saying it's going to be governed by CC2, and it's going to be like these, maybe.
Unless somebody in administration decides differently.
Yeah, and so why are we looking at it? Other than blessing it. And I don't mind blessing it, other than I think the precedent deal is kind of part of it. I think we will never have a final preliminary plat or a designated preliminary plat if we say the city can do what it wants, unless we change an ordinance that says that. Maybe that's the thing to do, is change our PUD ordinance to say, if the city does a PUD, it can do what it wants anytime along it. But it seems to be defeating the purpose of the PUD. And I think we just need to restrict that back and put in enough anticipated uses that will cover what's wanted.
And if you want to come back and do it again, we can do it again.
Well, that's right. Yeah, the city's not going to lose a lot of money running it back through.
They don't pay their own fees, do
I doubt it.
No, probably raise the fees.
But I would think that would be one thing that needed to be addressed. The one question I had is on the landscaping and the curb provisions. Is there really enough room for that?
Yes. So everything you see right here is truly like a CAD design that matches up with that preliminary plan. So we've already got the true kind of horizontal layout of everything you see right there.
Just the traffic flow and everything, that really works.
Yes.
There's a section, and what's really bad is I didn't write down where it was because I was reading it on that really print, but the turning radius says 15 feet for fire lanes, 3 feet for all other, and 5 feet for internal drive turning radius. Can you tell us what that means?
Sure.
And where it would apply, because 15 feet sounded probably reasonable, but 3, I'm not sure what that does.
Yeah, so 3 foot, just in my civil engineering world, will be the radiuses that you're having just on like these bull nose areas right here, where we're just having the last little bit of turning of the curve. You know, our curve doesn't come to a point right there, just rounded right there.
Okay.
So when we talk about the fire lane, that's what you're seeing right here, the designated kind of fire lanes to provide fire access is what the fire code dictates. You have to have a 15-foot radius. So here, all of your main
Just on the
roads.
ends, though, not on the middle ones, right? Where that yellow car is, that's not 50. That's not. Their fire truck's not going to be able to.
Anything that's related to parking is going to be the 5s and 3s that we're talking about. Just these small bends in the curve itself.
Okay. On there's a provision that there's bumpers and chocks to prevent cars sticking out too far, and I assume that's front curb
Yes.
parking bumpers. Or is there any way to put it in there, some limit on how high those are? Really used to make me mad when the front end, well, not just Corvette, but several cars drag on those, and they wouldn't really need to be that high.
We don't have those full cars. Not all of us have full cars.
Yeah, I know, but it also did it on my.
So not to dive too far. So
Those are standard, aren't they?
if you have to build custom, it'll be expensive and drive up on development costs.
What's the
Most of
standard,
those
6 inches?
Most of those come precast, and you can get 5 inches, 7 inches, 12 inches.
Okay.
And so we could write in there
5 inch ones?
5 and 7 perform the exact same for passenger vehicles, so we could limit it to 5. 12 is more for actual like semi truck bumper.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but not just Corvette, but the Corvette was real bad and always made me mad. My kid's car has got a windshield.
I could tell you tons of stories of my wife being upset when I mess up her air dam on her Tahoe.
There you go. Okay. I just it wouldn't cost us anything to put a 5-inch number in there and just cover that. Yeah, that'd be better than tearing things up. On the lighting adjoining the residential, is there? I didn't see any, but I didn't get to read it as close as I would have liked to in this area. But is there provision for shading or shielding from the residential?
There should be baffling language in there, yes.
For that, talk about the backside of.
Right, backside towards the residential.
The east side of the shopping center.
Yeah, east side.
And there's no parking back there, correct?
Correct, yeah, and they have the largest buffer, and that's why we were trying to give them as much buffer as possible. So we actually have a 30-foot drive back there for a lot more semi-truck delivery if we need to parallel park a semi back there for a grocer. So we have, that's the one deviation from that 26-foot drive lane as well. So we've got 30-foot plus a little landscape area, then the 15-foot setback from that road. So we've got almost 55 foot between the back wall of the grocer and the fence line.
And that radius back there around those is big enough for 18-wheeler to.
The other question I had when the other drawing was up there was the sewer line that runs around the east boundary. I noticed that it's going to be utilized. And when that was installed, I believe it is all on Fox Hollow property. I don't think
It's in an easement, it's in a dedicated utility easement to the city.
to the city?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all those, every easement where you have any dedication of public lines is then, so it's our sewer line.
Okay.
And it actually comes out from behind the last lot on the north end into their common area back there where the floodplain is.
Yeah.
And so it's a really easy connection for us.
Isn't there a lift station Isn't all that on a lift station though?
Yeah.
And our lift station will handle all the
Yeah,
additional.
when it was designed to handle everything that could feed into it. Is the center front lot, is that the 15,000 square foot lot?
Yes, that's the smallest.
Say that again?
Oh, I showed 24,000.
The center front lot?
No, it's 24.
Mine says 24067.
Okay.
Well, sorry, it's 24. But I think what he's referencing in the PUD, we have a minimum lot size
Oh,
of
okay.
15,000.
Okay.
And I thought that's probably what it was, and I didn't.
So
I didn't.
you're talking about the building itself or
No.
No, it's the lot size.
the
It was
actual
lot size, minimum lot size for this development.
So this is all floating still.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Smallest is back there. And this, Jim, it's good you're here, because I want to ask you about this since you're here. The text says the filing, or lots can be sold before the final plat's filed. And it's my understanding legally you can't do that.
You're in the PUD,
Yeah, I think that's
where at?
well,
Under plating regulations, the final plat with improvements is required, and there shall be flexibility to combine and/or divide lots that deviate from the preliminary plat.
no.
The city of Newcastle shall be allowed to file a final plat without a subdivision bond for the purpose of selling individual lots to accommodate potential buyers to promote economic development for the greater good of the city and its citizens.
Let me see if I can find it on this little bitty one.
We can't do that, I'll just answer that right now. We can't sell the lot. If it says that, then I need to find it because that's not true. The intention is that we will final plat this, and it is stated right here, what I just read in 9.5 under plating regulations. The only thing that we're gonna do is we're not gonna bond it ourselves. You know, we're not gonna pay for a bond. We're gonna develop the final plat and we're gonna file it.
By bond, you mean your city's not holding the note? Is that what you're saying?
No, we file the final plat so we can sell the individual lots once it's
When
the
the
final plat.
developer's doing the development, they have to file a bond for the development. Improvements.
If they're not done. So the plan is
Yeah.
the next step will be the final plat and improvement plan. But we
The
will,
city,
we'll be filing the final plat without a subdivision bond to assure that the improvements will be done.
and the city's also not going to carry the note on any of these properties, like buy to sell, own, or rent to own, or lease to own, whatever.
That's not the intention, as I understand.
Yeah, I'll go and find where it says that, because I didn't think you could do it.
No, and it's just the flexibility to combine or divide lots that deviate from the preliminary plat. Like I said, if somebody comes in and they want to combine the 2 back lots or the 3 back lots, we're gonna go through the administrative, lot line adjustment to do that.
Yeah, that's under 9.5, right?
It's allowed in any, I mean, we could do
Yeah.
that in other plats.
Yeah,
That's not.
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
not
a
an issue.
I didn't remember reading that ordinance.
Okay,
So you have to find it.
Is it in the PUD that you're saying?
I think so.
Well, that's not gonna happen. If it says that, then that's not correct, but I don't recall that.
Well, this is interesting too, on the question about the changing the, changes to the PUD. Upon approval of this PUD, provision of regulations of the development plan contained herein shall not be changed, altered, or amended in any manner except by action of the city council after review and recommendation of the planning commission. So, and that's under 8.0. Yeah, so that really says
Covers.
we're going to follow the normal process. Yeah. So the provision in 9, lots 1 through 6, that the uses can be administratively reviewed.
Yeah, I think that section probably is more trying to get staff some flexibility to look at a proposed use and look at the ones that are listed in CC2, and if something's not specifically listed, they can kind of look at what's being requested and see if that is similar enough to what's specifically listed to go ahead and involve it. I think just trying to give some flexibility for staff.
But isn't that the stuff that's supposed to come to planning and zoning?
Well,
It's a question of similarity. I mean, I think you could write in some stuff that if there's a question, you can write in some language if there's a question of whether it's similar enough that staff perhaps may want to send it to the planning commission, send it to council to get a read on that. So everybody's on the same page. But I think they're just trying to.
Well, now
To me, it's more of an efficiency thing.
yeah, but now there's an individual or a group of individuals that are picking and choosing what they want to send and what they don't want to send. When, like, at what point, like, either everything that changes gets sent, or like, why are we even here if a few individuals are just going to pick and choose what's similar and what is going to get sent and what's not going to get sent?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's a similarity question. And the people that are picking are your city manager that works here, and the city staff that work with the city manager, so they're probably not going to go off the rails. I mean, if there's something that's not close enough in similarity, they're going to want you guys to pass on it.
We hope that, but we hope that, and I'm saying this as a citizen. I understand I'm on a committee and my name's there, but as a citizen, when an individual or a small group of individuals are making decisions without bringing it to boards and committees, then it gives the perception to the 15,000 people that live in Newcastle that 2 people are making decisions, and who's to say that they're not making a decision because who owns that company, or they're not making a decision because of a kickback they're getting from that company. All those things. We're getting to the size of a city where those are the questions, and that's what our citizens, who I represent, are thinking and saying and talking about. So when we start allowing a small group of individuals to make city decisions without it going to a city council or a planning and zoning or before board of adjustments or whoever, then who's really representing the city? 2 people that have their own interests involved? We don't know that. The 15,000, 16, however, 10,000 people that live in Newcastle don't know that. And that's who we're representing.
Okay, let me throw something out here. Since I read up above, and the PUD's the final document, here the permitted uses are store, shop, or grocer, or retail. So anything retail can go in here. Eating, drinking restaurants, either dine in or drive through. You can eat and drink at a restaurant, dine in, dine through. May not be able to have a dance hall. I think if any store for retail can go in there, I don't think there's anything they're going to, you'd change it to. I mean, I don't think, I guess I'm really saying I don't think that language is necessary, because any retail store can go in there. It wouldn't allow a garage or salvage facility, but it'd allow a hardware store, or, I mean, I think they've already covered it. when I read it through this time. I mean, I read the section that
It's
says
gonna
it can be
depend on-
modified.
It's going to depend on it's going to depend on those individuals' definition of similar, which could be different than mine and yours. I agree. I just think it's setting a precedent that we're just letting, we're saying, yeah, go do this, but we're letting.
Well, I know, I mean, I brought it up, so yeah, I'm on board with it, but I think the point really gets to be as you read through it just a little more and I find out that there's another section that says that PUD is the final PUD, I'm not near as worried about it because if I tell them they can put anything in there they want that's retail, that pretty well covers anything they're gonna put in there. But that's, we can address that in particular in a little bit. That's the notes I had. And I brought that up too. Okay, yeah, we covered everything that I've got on it. Anybody else with any other questions?
So this common area on the north side is basically detention that's going to eventually flow into the floodplain to the north, is that correct?
Yes, sir. And so we didn't really get to those slides yet. I consider the drainage much more of the preliminary plat agenda item, but certainly we can discuss it. So we've gone through a preliminary drainage analysis to figure out, hey, have we reserved enough area of stormwater detention to adequately serve this for what our drainage ordinance shows, and we have. It'll actually probably even be a little bit smaller.
It looks pretty heavy. It looks like you've got plenty here.
It is. So we've gone through it, and we've got about a 50% over capacity on really what we need. And so we'll probably start working that back a little bit, but we're not going to change that northern property line at all in terms of those two lots adjacent to it. We're just going to create some additional landscape area and berm out there as well.
Well, hopefully, if you're going to crowd that detention area, you'll make those green spaces a little lower.
Sure.
Right? So that if it gets really full, we'll water the trees.
Come up here. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Proceed.
I found your comment, Gordon.
Did you find it, Will?
Yeah.
All right.
Final plat may be filed with the county prior to improvement completion to sell the lot. I think that's what you read.
Yeah.
Where's that at? It's in the PUD or in the?
I think it's in the preliminary, the staff report.
Oh, okay.
In the staff report, yeah. Which needs to be, probably need to update that to reflect that, because that was the intention of 9.5. A final plat with improvements is required. Flexibility combined and or divide the lots that deviate from the preliminary plat. So we need to update in discussions with the city manager, in discussions with our engineer, and how we have the funds. The hope is that we can have the funds to build the infrastructure, but that's why we want to get the final plat filed. So say somebody comes and wants to buy CBS or a whatever. I mean, right now, whatever wants to buy a lot. Something that's similar to these listed uses, that we could do concurrent construction. You know, it allows us to flexibility. Yes, we have this lot, it's shovel ready, but we are going to be putting in the improvements. And I think I can get that, even though we're just talking preliminary plat stage right now, the next item. I'm happy to answer those questions on potential development sequence for this development.
I don't find this document.
That's what we were just talking about we can go ahead and file the final plat without putting in a subdivision bond. The idea is to give us the ability to potentially sell a lot, because we have a lot of money tied up in this right now, and we need to get these lots sold. But we will be working with the engineer to develop the final plat and the improvement plan, and then go from there on how we're gonna fund that to extend necessary utilities and do a lot of the internal drive, not the individual parking lot, but the internal drive.
So I really don't want to tell them which way to turn those streets. I really don't.
Yeah,
I don't. I don't want to put that in. I want the city to decide that.
yeah,
And the way it's written, it could be either way, right?
yeah. And I think,
That way, if somebody does it wrong, it wasn't us, right?
well, that, and I think it may make a difference to who wants to buy those
That's
lots.
right.
And we'll just live with what they do. When we were discussing not having left turns on
North end.
the north exit, I thought about throwing out up here on Sonic, the north exit out of Main Street Sonic is
Well, it can turn
supposed to
left,
be.
but you're crazy if you want to.
Well,
No,
it says do not turn, but
They come out there, but it says right on.
yeah.
It must be that Pioneer sign got you.
Yeah, you couldn't see the right only because the Pioneer sign was so bright. You couldn't see.
Isn't that about the same spot?
Yeah.
But that's
Is
we
that
addressed
painted
that
on the
then.
cement, or is it a sign sitting there?
I'm not telling this story. I'm just riding the ride.
I think there's a sign. I think
When we
there's a
approved that, we
little sign.
restricted that
Or
to be right.
I know it's at least
We
painted.
can do that, but
Yellow.
I don't think we want to do that in this.
Well, there's too much flexibility in this to be ironing that all down at once.
Yeah, still. Before I go on, the other question, and we talked about this, identified what it meant, but on the master site development plan introduction, B, authority and liability, landlord is the city of Newcastle. Do you really want to use landlord there
Where are you at?
on that page you're holding up?
This one?
Where you thought, yes. Landlord says city of Newcastle. I mean, landlord doesn't sound like the right word to me.
Because once we sell it, right? We would.
Well, but this,
Well, landlord, you own it and somebody else has access to it. Right now, we only own it until somebody else buys it, and we won't be the landlord. We'd be the,
I mean, it's property owner, or
Yeah.
developer, or,
yeah.
I guess maybe we could say developer instead of landlord. Yeah,
Page 2.
yeah. At the bottom, E. Say developer instead of landlord. That would
that
probably
sounds better. A little more
Change that.
consistent with what.
Okay.
I mean, we addressed this all as one element, so. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we recommend approval of HUD as presented, subject to the adjustment to 9 special conditions, the use change addressed, noting that I would suggest that we just take out that extra,
Bullet?
Bullet 3?
yeah, bullet 3, because everything retail's already there. And I'm pretty sure they're not gonna put a car lot or
Oh, no.
anything else in there. And if they want to, they can come back. I'll talk to them about that. So I asked that we change that, and I asked it on page 2 of 16, the landlord be changed to developer. Other than that, I think we found everything acceptable at this time.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify with an upraised hand. Be unanimously approved. Thank you, sir. That was 8 and 9.
Yeah, that was just 8.
Okay, what did we not already hear?
Hmm?
Have you told us of the whole story since we're moving to number 9?
I believe, I think we've had preliminary plat questions kind of as we go. We do have a couple more slides that just show the preliminary plat, which you guys have in the packet. And then the drainage, which we had mentioned as well, in terms maybe, unless you want to hear specifically more about some of the public utility routing.
Well, it's on the map, right?
It is on
My
there.
motion to doing both of them, but I'll do it separately.
Oh, did you say that in your?
Oh, did you say, you were doing it together?
I said we talked about them both together, so I'd just make them both together, but I'll go ahead and make a new motion. I mean, we didn't know any changes on the PUD or the preliminary plat as presented, so this time I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the preliminary plat as presented.
This is the one with the language you didn't like. Is it? In the staff report.
You're doing 8 right now, right?
No,
No,
9.
we just did 8.
Okay, all right, so we counted that as 8 last time?
Did we take the vote for 8?
Yes, we did.
Everybody else,
Yes, we did.
Okay, I thought we'd vote for 8 and 9, so it doesn't matter to me. but
Okay.
Okay,
we were, but now we're just doing 9.
okay, all right. Well, we're short one, so we're gonna go ahead and vote, or we're gonna wait on him?
I'll be right back. That's what I was pointing out. Page 2 of the staff report, plat review and requirements, the last sentence is what you had in question. So,
Yeah, I have that note to match.
anybody figured it out? I'm just saying that's where it was.
Right, to the staff report in section 9.5 of the plating regulations. I think I gave a little bit more clarity or more information in the staff report that's not reflected in the PUD, but that is the intention. And so really that needs to be updated into the PUD, is that we can file that without putting in a subdivision bond.
That doesn't say to me what he thought, I think. So he was saying you could sell the lots before the plat was done or filed. That doesn't say that to me, but I think maybe he thought it did.
Right, is what the discrepancy is,
Right.
is the language in the staff report doesn't match what is actually
No,
in
I don't think so. What he said is, he thought there was language that said city could sell lots before the final plat was filed, ready to go. That's what he thought he read somewhere. The only thing I found for selling was this: the final plat may be filed with the county prior to improvement completion to sell the lot.
What page is that for?
Page 2,
Oh, just spell it, plating development.
plat review and requirements, the last sentence.
Well, yeah, no, there's another place that says something else, but I see what that says now. But that, as long as the city were willing to let them do that, they get the final plat filed, then they can sell the lots.
Yeah.
And there's, we'll have to look for it. I guess maybe I ought to, well, no, what, I didn't preference that because Janae said, if that's in there, it's wrong and we're gonna fix it.
Because the final plat and infrastructure improvements is required and will be completed and filed with the county prior to issuance of any building permit.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's under planning and development sequence. I'm not sure where.
So this is, he's reading from staff.
He's reading from the preliminary plat. That's where.
So the language is a little bit different.
Okay. Thank you.
But I think you're okay with the language on both of them.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything needs to be changed.
Good deal.
Both of them say that you gotta have the final plat within a lot.
Yeah, and that's, wherever it is, it's fairly close to the front of reading the documents that came out because it's the first note I made.
Gotcha.
Probably the staff report on that.
It might be.
Is what you read, but I think even that one's okay. Because it's pretty clear, it says final plat and infrastructure improvements is required will completely file with the county prior to issuance of the building. So that's what you're going to do.
We'll look, or I'll look later, but at the present time, I've got a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat as presented. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Be unanimously approved. I'm going to recommend mine.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Item 10 is a public hearing to consider an application for use permitted on review for a mini warehouse, including outside fenced storage area for boats and recreational vehicles. The storage are us, Carl Gibson, located in the final plat of Crystal Village in the northwest quarter of Section 8, Township 8 North, Range 4 West, and Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property address is 3301 Southeast 44th Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is UPOR 2025-001.
Okay. Good evening, Kevin Hagerberg, Senior Planner. As stated, UPR 2025-001 is for a use of a mini storage and mini and RV storage in a CC2 Community Commercial District. With this UPR, there's also going to be 2 deviation requests, one for paving and one for facade. The applicant approached the city in October of 2024 looking to expand an existing use. This is currently existing in this location at 3301 is Storage R Us in the Crystal Village existing plat. So what this UPR will do will bring the future expansion of this UPR into conformance with current regulations. The existing location does not have a UPR because in September of 2022, we updated the ordinances to require mini storages as a UPR. So that's why there wasn't the existing one. It's needed for future expansion of the use. So with that, The two deviations that are being requested as stated is the deviation to the pavement requirement in 154.093 Charlie 8. That requires that all paved areas are at least 2 inches of asphalt. What this applicant is looking to do in the north half of the development or the UPOR area in the covered storage area is to provide for pervious pavers. The applicant engineer is present to kind of discuss some of the technical details, but what they're looking to do is expand their developable area by reducing detention requirements. The impervious pavement will not increase existing flows. The only concern that we do have is long-term maintenance. We do look to include some language within the plat, or the covenants rather, that will address enforcement and responsibility of the property owner to maintain that so that it does not increase flows. If there is ever an increase in flows, that will be a code enforcement issue that the city will handle with the property owner. As for the facade, looking at buildings 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, those have facades that are, it's lagging, to the north, west, and south that will have EFIS or brick in line with the commercial facade requirements. However, on the interior facades that are not facing towards the public or the residential areas, they're requesting that they maintain the R panel within those areas. This request is not unlike the London Plaza development to the north on Northeast 24th Street, where this commission allowed for them to reduce that between the overhead doors. That was actually overturned at City Council, where the individual is required to follow the community commercial district regulations. As stated, the applicant and his engineer are present. City staff supports and recommends approval of UPR 2025-002 as well as the deviations. I will note that the potential impacts for this are limited in that there is existing mini storage to the west, about 500 feet to the west, and light commercial to the east. So this mini storage is in line with surrounding uses. The pervious pavers, as noted, the impacts of that, if it's not maintained, could potentially increase runoff. And for the facade, again, it is not unlike existing facade deviations within mini storage areas.
So do we have any drawings of, well, we've got that, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's for the trailers for the north?
Yes, sir.
Trailers
To the north, it is proposed that these buildings 9 and 10 are covered storage for boats and RVs.
And that's where our paving stones are going to be?
Yes, sir, in the hatched area to the north half of the image.
And that is around the buildings only? We're going to have concrete underneath the buildings, or is it
throughout?
Oh, it's going to go where the boats are?
Yes, sir.
So the boats are going to be on gravel?
No.
It is called TrueTech. Mr. Ortiz, would you have to touch on some details about that?
Yes, sir. So essentially what it is a pervious pavement.
Just state your name.
Oh, sorry. My name's Renee Ortiz, WSB civil engineer. Essentially what this stuff is a pervious pavement, but it also allows for storage underground. So all the, I guess, gravel is confined within cells. So yes, it'll
Do you have a picture of this?
On my phone, I can find one.
Is it like, they look like honeycombs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He probably still wants to see a picture, but I know what it looks like now. Yeah. I'm sorry.
But yes, sir. And it is H20 rated loading, so highway standard for.
Remember the Zachary's parking lot, that's what it looks like.
The one in Moore?
Yeah.
I was probably thinking about chicken.
Who's parking lot? Zachary's. One. I think that's about the only one left, is it? There's one. Well,
There's one in Norman.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. That we keep our buses at in off I-35 and they have we park outside.
Exact system. So these are the grids and the gravel goes inside.
You got a profile view? Or what you got? Profile over there. Okay. Okay, so it's got 3 layers to it? Tell me about the 3 layers.
Yeah, so essentially the first layer is the actual grid with the confined gravel in it, and below that we'll have,
How thick is that?
I believe that's about an inch and a half.
Okay. What's the grid made out of?
It's ACP,
Okay.
high density plastic.
Okay.
And it is UV protected, so it doesn't degrade over time.
Not very much. Go ahead.
And then the other, below that will be 8 inches of clean gravel. Aggregate.
What
And
size?
then, it'd be between a quarter inch to inch.
Okay.
Size. Below that will be compacted subgrade.
Okay. How deep is your subgrid?
I believe about 12 inches. Yeah.
And how thick is this top part?
About an inch and a half, I believe.
Okay, so the honeycomb's only about 1.5 inches deep,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically the aggregate for detention underneath it is basically what you're saying.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Kevin, I'm jumping on you a little bit here.
Yes, sir.
Is there, on the building 10, now is there any shielding as to the property to the east? Fencing or, I mean, on the west, we've got a set of buildings that have.
You know, I can confirm to the north, yes. That's a good question. I have not confirmed that one. And we'll be able to zoom in there.
Which one? I believe it's a steel fence.
Yeah, I think that fence to the north carries to the east as well. Just off set for screen.
So we're only going to park these units underneath the roof line. Is that right?
Correct, and then there is the open spaces on the far east side as well.
And that's just a buffer, or is that future development, or what is that?
And this
I
portion,
mean, you put the spacing in there. I'm just curious. Well, the honeycomb right there, yeah. That's a pretty large area. Is that just a function of being able to get in and out, to access, or why?
It's open parking, so no covered over the parking
Okay,
spaces.
so you are parking
Yes, sir.
boats and stuff out there as well.
There is no contemplated structures for that area at this time.
But there is a fence, there is a perimeter
Yes,
fence
sir.
there, that's a solid metal fence.
Yes, sir.
So what buildings are existing?
Into the southeast corner, the ones that are grayed out. It's going to be kind of hard to see.
I can see them.
You can see grayed and hashed. Yes.
Oh, okay.
What constitutes maintaining? I mean, is it spray Roundup so grass doesn't grow? I don't know what we have to maintain them, or
There are manufacturer instructions with the TrueTech system. I'm not sure of the details of what that means, but I imagine it would be vegetation that might grow in there, maintaining the honeycomb so it doesn't collapse, replacing those pieces if needed, things to that effect.
But my concern would be bridging. I don't think you'll have a problem with it in the long term. Don't you think that's the most likely problem if you had a problem, would be bridging? What do you think?
Carl Gibson, owner, Mr. Chairman. This is our third project using the True Grid.
Okay.
We got it in at our location in Lawton, and it was in lieu of a detention pond. In Moore, same thing. So this would be our third one in 6 years that we've done.
Okay.
Your engineer made a comment that may not be very clear. We're not asking for any reduction in retention capacity. Actually, the True Grid, because of the way it's designed, it's underneath our.
No, I understand what it does.
Okay.
My question is, and it's only been 6 years that these three have been in, these two.
Correct.
Correct?
That's correct.
So if you get any siltation or dirt or any of that that seals over the top of that honeycomb, the water won't be able to penetrate down into that 12-inch aggregate underneath. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or vegetation could do that as well, seal it off. That's the only way that I ever see that having a problem.
Right.
Otherwise, it will last for a long time.
Correct. We've not had it. We really don't do anything to it in our other two locations. I actually, when talking about the silt or any kind of what would it take to fill it up, the volume that we're talking about at this location of the True Grid, I mean, it would take 100 dump trucks full of sand to be able to fill up all the void area underneath it, and so I mean, it's a lot. I think Rennell, calculated. I think the retention capacity of the True Grid area that we have is like 1.8 times the minimum requirement. So there's a lot.
So what are you calculating the void space at?
40%. It's actually it's 310,000 cubic feet. It's around numbers, 300 cubic feet per dump truck. You know, there's your 100. So, and I think I don't remember what was it. It was about 60% of that volume was the requirement.
Good.
I think 17,000.
Which way does the water flow on this side?
It flows to the north.
Okay.
Yeah. And it does. So just to kind of put it in perspective. So the existing site does have a detention pond.
And where is that at? In that area?
In the north side.
Okay.
And so that outlet discharge pipe is an 18-inch.
Okay.
And we are choking that down, and we are retaining that within the geogrid discharge pipe of 8-inch diameter.
Okay.
So we're able to not only reduce but store it and still have over half the volume inside our area. So
very interesting.
To that point, you know, like Mr. Pearson was saying, we can fill half of it and we still comply with the 100-year limit. And there is an existing pond to the south as well that's also retaining some of the stuff that's coming on the south side. So the majority does go to the north. There's some to the south.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any effort to channel, I mean, as you're improving this property and making your bed, the existing detention pond has a pipe going to it. What's to ensure that the water runs to this grid rather than to the roadway ditch? Is that just the one?
So like I said, everything slopes to the north already. Our plan is to try to keep the same drainage patterns. And that's part of the ordinance is that you can't, and part of the law, you can't discharge water to another property.
Right.
So everything's already graded that direction, and we're maintaining that. So naturally, everything's already flowing that way. But to ensure that it goes in that direction, there's actually, we've already done most of this engineering. But we've got a pipe, perforated pipe, that's going to line that more to curb. So once everything hits, not only is it going to go there, but that pipe will ensure that it gets to that location.
Okay. All right, thank you. So anything else? Do you have anything else for us? Yeah.
I'll just remind you before the motion for the two deviations as well.
So question on that. So on London's, or on the, whatever, 24th, we told him it was okay. Correct. And then when city council said, no, you have to keep it what our city standard is, right? Do we remember what their reasoning was behind that? Because it's not visible from the houses or the road.
So the commission allowed him to deviate on all of the overhead doors in between the 80% because of taking it to the top, if I remember correctly. And then I don't recall the reasoning, Janae, you might, but on the south side of his, he was required to maintain that 80% in between the overhead doors
It was because you could view it through
from Bradford.
From Bradford?
Well, from Bradford and through the entrance gates.
Oh, okay,
There was
You can see
concern
it from the outside.
okay.
He ended up breaking all of the buildings.
That was the end
Yeah.
story was that
Because he's like, why would I go 80%? So he ended up just doing floor and ceiling brick.
And it was with, that west wall was actually part of the building that was brick.
That one was
The
completely
south
brick.
wall, completely brick. It was the interior that could potentially be used,
Huge, correct.
that they said that would be what you would have to do.
Yes.
And I think they just thought it wasn't enough.
Well, I don't want us to say yes and then they get back to them and then say no, and that's, I mean, if we already know that they don't want us to deviate, then we should.
Because anything that can be viewed from a street or adjoining residential property. So that's,
So
I
10
think they've taken care of
east
it.
is okay?
Well, it doesn't have any
It has commercial to
any
the east of it,
station on it.
so I think that would be.
Oh, it's more storage too, isn't it?
It's Bartley Industries, light commercial.
Oh, okay. We approved that electric company in there, you remember? Bartlett?
Yeah, I just couldn't remember that there was, what was there, yeah. I see the image now.
Well, and that doesn't have a wall there at all, so. Okay. And Kevin, give me the variances again.
One variance is for the parking lot, deviation from the parking requirements, and then the other one is for the facade requirements on the 80% requirement for all elevations.
So the deviation would only be for the interior or as depicted in the site plan.
Is that color coded?
It is
So everything red would be,
view panel, an overhead door, screen is brick and each.
okay. I assume that's what that
Well, 10's open, right?
Correct.
10 doesn't, won't have.
Yes. As for illustrative purposes.
Okay.
Correct. Mhm.
Oh, yeah, so my question was.
This time I'll make them, sure. Is there any public comment on this application? Seeing none, we'll proceed. I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the UPOR. And I recommend that we recommend approval of the deviation for the parking requirement and deviation for the 80% masonry requirement on the interior buildings pursuant to the noted color-coded provisions of the application. Would be 7, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10. Excepting on the ends of 9 and 10 are brick and ethos materials pursuant to the application. So I'll just type to the application and the drawings there.
I'll second.
And motion second, all in favor, signify with a raised hand. Be unanimously approved. Thank you, Kevin. Item number 11 is discussion of possible action on the final plat of Storage RS LLC, replat of Crystal Village addition formally.
Good evening, Kevin Hagerberg, Senior Planner. As noted, so this one is a continuation from the previous item. This is a replat of the Crystal Village to bring all 5 plats into, or 5 lots into one plat. This is currently zoned CC2 community commercial, so it does align with the current uses. We have discussed the drainage, so I will skip that unless there are any continued questions from there. Sanitary sewer is provided via on-site sanitary sewer in the southeast. of this development. Water will utilize an existing 8-inch water line on Southeast 44th, and access will be gained via 2 access easements along Southeast 44th. There is an existing access easement at the existing storage. A new one will be placed to the west of that for circulation purposes. The applicant is requesting 2 variances to this plat as well. One to the 8-inch water line on Southeast 44th. It is a section line road, which would require it to be upgraded to a 12-inch. The applicant is requesting to keep that at an 8-inch. And the other one, excuse me, just confirm. As well as the pervious pavement is the other request, because they would have the same requirements as the UPOR. And as previously noted in the UPOR item, I will note that the PUD language, or excuse me, the CCR language that will be amended is in your staff report. There's 2 paragraphs that are going to be included in there. One is noting the owner's responsibility for the maintenance. The second paragraph is the enforcement of that. So if they fail to maintain the performance of the True Grid, it will be a code enforcement issue brought to the city to make sure that that is remediated. Again, the applicant and the owner are present for any questions. City staff supports and recommends the approval of final plat for Storage RS, as well as the 2 deviations as noted.
Anyone have any questions on this? I think we covered everything before. I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the final plat for Storage RS US LLC, and that we recommend approval of the deviation to the 8-inch water line being maintained, and no upgrade required, since it's an existing water line serving the area, and that the pervious pavement be approved.
I'll second that.
Have a motion second, all in favor, signify by raised hand. Be unanimously approved. Item number 12 is an update on development code rewrites for zoning and subdivision chapters.
After discussion with Reeve and Nichols, our consultants that are doing that chapter, we did have a staff meeting with them last Friday for about 2 hours going over the initial chapter 154 rewrite. They will have a prepared copy for Planning Commission on 3/25 of 25, and you will have approximately 2 weeks with that till 4/8 of 25. And so we would expect that during that 2 weeks, you look at the rewrite, take a note, make comments, suggest revisions, and then compile them and return it to me. I'm happy to meet with any of you during that time period, either by phone, email, come to my office and see me. I can go through any questions that you guys have on any of the potential revisions to the zoning code. After we get that back, they'll incorporate those into the new rewrite, and hopefully we will have a finalized chapter for the new chapter 154. For the subdivision regulations, you should have a copy of that June 16th of 25, and review until 7/1 of 25. Same process with that as well.
So how voluminous are these sections?
Just like our code.
It's like our
It's a
code.
total rewrite.
It's just over.
And we got 2 weeks to go through it.
And no meeting?
The meeting will happen after that. So the meeting will happen giving you individual time to go through that. And then we will have a meeting.
You're not going to have to change stuff as a group.
No. But you can't meet together. I mean, you can meet individually, not more than
No,
two.
I'm going to have a meeting. We'll have a special meeting.
Oh, if you want to have a special meeting, yeah, then we could do that.
I mean, I think,
At the end of the 2 weeks.
At the end
not
of the 2
beginning.
weeks.
right.
Right. Or if it comes into where we can get it onto the planning commission agenda, we could do that too. Or we can have a special meeting. We can either do it make an agenda item.
Well, if we talk to you at 4-8 and they incorporate those, and then we have a meeting at our regular meeting and address it that night, that'd work, or we could have a special meeting to do it. We might just ask that everybody look at it once we get it and see if it's items that we want to have a special meeting for. I would suggest we have a special meeting perhaps before our regular meeting. I mean, 4-8 to 4, whatever our regular meeting day is.
Well, it's gonna be a major rewrite.
Yes.
Right? The whole world is going to change.
Right. There's a bunch of stuff, and well, just like we're talking about, our sign section needs to have brightness in it, and those items.
Okay.
There's things some of us will remember we've said we wanted changed, and some of us won't. That's why I'd like to see us hit a meeting, and I think a special meeting is the way to do it.
How many chapters is it?
Chapter 154 is the zoning code. Chapter 153 is the subdivision regulation.
It's not 3 pages long.
No, I know, 2 chapters.
But you're going to get the first chapter, chapter 154 first,
Okay.
for 325 to 48. Then you'll get the subdivision chapter in June 16th.
I'll throw out, getting through this in 2 weeks, nobody's paying us to do this, so we don't have days and days to do it. I mean, we don't have 2 weeks worth of days to do it.
Sure. I understand that. And I'm sure if
A whole lot.
we're trying to stay within the confines of what the contract was, as far as the time frame.
So will this include, the documents will be given, will they include strikeout language on what's been modified, or is it just, here's everything, and we gotta compare ourselves?
It's a whole new chapter, and a lot of it is going to have, the structure is going to stay the same, the chapter 154, and then the sections, but there will be new content to each one of those.
But it won't show what the new content is.
And I can talk with them on
That
what's
would be
going to be.
super helpful.
Yes.
Okay.
Just really time consuming.
Red line strikeout is the way to have it.
Okay.
And I don't understand.
Of course, it'd make it twice as big, but that's okay.
And I don't understand what you mean by, you say we'll get it March 25th, and then what's April 4th?
Like I said, you'll get it on 320 and the review.
Get on 325.
Which is March 25th, and then review it in 2
Review
weeks.
until 4/8/25, meaning you have till 4/8 to look at that.
Yeah, but then what happens?
So then we take, like I said,
We
during
give
that
her
2
our
weeks,
comments.
you compile the comments instead of me getting 5 different,
Oh, okay. So then we can email you.
then you can email me. And then between that time, you can contact us and we can answer any questions that you have. If you want to meet with us, if there's something that you are making a proposal that's a major change from.
So it's 3 quorum, is that the deal?
That's correct.
We'll meet on the 31st.
The 2 of you can meet together. And the other 2 can meet. Or you can call a
It's pretty
special
easy,
meeting.
just call a special meeting.
It is.
If we want to, at 4, have a special meeting, we can do it.
I will not be here for that.
We've got to have how much notice?
I will be in Arkansas.
48 hours notice on it, so if everybody's read on it and says, let's all sit down and talk about this, we've got 48 hours and we can call a meeting.
Okay.
And that's probably a reasonable way to do it.
Yeah, if we could see the difference, then that might help us not be so overwhelmed that we might be able to do it in our regular meeting if you can tell that, but if not, I think we have to have a special meeting.
Yeah, we used to go to midnight and 1 o'clock at these meetings, and unless you want to do that again, we better have a special meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Great. We're getting it. Discussion and possible action on setting date for a special meeting.
You just want to set it? Can we cancel it last minute?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, that's it.
If you can wait till March, you have your.
Yeah, we can do it in March.
Yeah.
In March.
Well,
In case they don't get done in time.
there you go. Buy a separate. All right. We'll to be addressed later. New business. Oh, I know what it is. As we're doing this rewrite, one of the things that I was reading just the other day, and I brought this issue up before, on our building requirements, and it's probably just part of the building code, but the available electric service to residential houses and a subdivision will not suffice if everybody in a reasonably sized subdivision gets an electric vehicle. And if an individual gets a new GMC electric pickup that takes 425 kilowatts rating to charge an 800 volt system. The I think it's 4.7 it said was kilowatt rating of a house service, of a regular house, typical house service. That won't charge up the pickup.
Sorry about you.
Yeah. We may want to address that and say, you got to build a house that'll let you charge up your electric car.
Well, we're going to get the electric companies in here before we beat them up.
I don't know. Do we want to? We want to beat them
Well,
up. They don't like it when you talk to them.
I mean, that's a
I've
real
tried
question,
that.
right?
But that's something that I'll throw out. We might think about that and what we might recommend to the city council, because, I mean, even.
I'm sure these power companies know this already.
Oh, they have, no doubt. I wouldn't, I mean, infrastructure-wise, I would guess it's a pretty simple change the transformer out. But whether your panel will handle something like that at your individual house is a good question. Most
Well, that's the homeowner's problem,
right? Yeah.
Well, but if
200 amp is standard. If you have a larger home, 400 amp, but you'd have to have OEC engineer come out and approve that. You can't just get a meter base for that.
right.
I think infrastructure is probably there. Upgrade transformers, whatever.
Well, but I don't think that some of
The older neighborhoods, no. The Oaks probably can't do that.
yeah, the wiring coming in probably isn't heavy enough.
I'm saying infrastructure-wise.
ride a bike.
I don't know how that neighborhood's designed in the settlement, but
I think about 45 days ago, all your incentives died, okay? So,
Oh, what?
I think all your incentives died about 45 days ago, so I don't think we have to worry about that.
Yeah, they seem to be awfully proud of their electric pickups,
Yeah.
and they don't have a whole lot more mileage than
Yeah.
Well, we can think about that. I might call somebody and see what they know.
I'd be interested in finding out more about it. It's about
Well, it'll sound like he knows quite a bit.
yeah.
400 amp service at my house. But it had to be engineered, had to have an engineer come approve that, to put that in. But the standard service is 200 amp. I bet most of the homes in Oaks are still 100 amp service.
What else, Gordon?
That's it. Old business.
Water that you can provide.
Motion to adjourn.
Things in your house.
All in favor?
A lot
Unanimous.
of your circuits are fine.
Thank you.
Gordon, I had a friend of mine who's a
Problem.
Yeah.
he lost $53,000 last week.